Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gotama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Okay, I'm going to get started by just welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see you here. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. Today is our group learning program where at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. on Sundays and Wednesdays, I come together with students helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. We start each one of our classes with meditation, so I'll guide you guys in a meditation session first. And then afterwards, if you'd like to stick around, there's a talk that I'm going to share, which is on chapter 21 of this book. It's titled Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This is the text that we use to guide this program, and you can actually get it for free from our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for our printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon. This week, chapter 21 is titled Do No Harm. What is the future of our planet? I'll explain to you guys more about what that is because you guys might not have been able to read the book at this point. So I'll help you guys with that after our meditation. What we're going to do is do some chanting in order to ease into the meditation, and then afterwards, I'm going to be guiding you in the meditation session. We're going to do breathing mindfulness meditation. And then there'll be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're all meditating together. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. If you guys would like to chant along, the chanting sheets are over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to chant along. It's important to understand that this isn't a rite, a ritual, or ceremony, or worship, or prayer, or anything like that. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. He used chanting as a way to help his students commit the teachings to memory, where today we use the chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So if you'd like to make yourself comfortable, I'm going to do the chanting. You guys are welcome to join in, and then I'm going to come back in with the guidance to be able to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Apivateyami Savakhato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakhato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa dhamma sati sata tawa manusanang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then wherever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. If you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, I apologize for all of you guys online. I didn't have my mic on. You guys didn't hear the chanting. So I'd like to once again just welcome everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today's class is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I come together and help students to understand the path to enlightenment as taught by the Buddha, to be able to help you awaken to this enlightened mental state where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any discontent feelings. You will have eliminated all your anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. And meditation is needed, but there's other things besides meditation that you would need in order to make your way to enlightenment. So that's why usually after meditation, I usually teach a certain topic. In this particular program, it's a 7-month program where I'm gradually guiding students through this book, which you can get for free from our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get it here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon. And I've been teaching all types of topics that are helping students to be able to gradually develop their practice. We're coming to the end of this group learning program, and we restart it again every 7 months. So we're going to be restarting it on January 4th. But students join at any particular time during the program. Now we're in chapter 21. And chapter 21 is titled Do No Harm. What is the future of the planet? Because as you're moving to this higher consciousness, which is the enlightened mind, where you're able to make wiser and wiser decisions that are improving what you experience on a day-to-day basis, one of the things that an individual typically becomes aware of is how our decisions are impacting not only other people through direct contact with other people, but the way that we interact with the planet. There are certain resources that we use and that we can use these wisely. And this particular chapter helps bring to your attention that not only would you need to make wise decisions about how you interact with other people, but also how you interact with the planet. And this is something that you can read in our book and be able to learn about certain decisions that are wise that we can make as individuals that would actually improve what we experience with the planet. Because living in this time frame, we all know that through scientific research that it's been shared with us that there's been impact to the planet based on decisions that we're making as human beings. Well, the Buddha teaches as part of his teachings that we should practice harmlessness, and that when we make decisions, that it's certain results that we're going to experience as a result of those decisions. And because of that, that's why he encourages us to practice harmlessness. Whereas if you're practicing harmfulness, where you're causing harm to others, that harm just comes back to you. So for example, if I dumped oil into a river and I did that repeatedly, well, over time, it's going to pollute the water table. And now this is affecting us. So the Buddha brings our attention to various decisions that we make that can impact people in a positive way, but also in a way that could be detrimental to other beings. So in this particular chapter, I share 2 things that help students to be able to understand 2 aspects of cleaning up certain decisions that we might be making that could otherwise improve the way that we interact with the planet. And I'm sure that there are certain decisions that you guys are already making that are actually helpful and beneficial for the planet. And usually what I do with this particular topic is I just share these 2 things that I share in chapter 21, but then I really turn it into an open discussion where we can actually talk and we can discuss and maybe walk away with some ideas that are shared from other people about things that you guys are doing. Those of you here at the temple and anybody online, you can share certain things that you're actually currently doing that you found to be helpful. And then we can kind of walk away with 1 or 2 or 3 ideas that we didn't know about before. And now maybe we implement this into our day-to-day life, and it can actually improve what we experience in terms of the way we interact with the planet. So if you guys would like to participate in that open discussion after I share these 2 things with you, we have microphones here in the white bowl. You guys can use those, and then that way the people online will be able to hear you. All you need to do is get a microphone and press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on, and you just hold it up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. And then if you'd like to share these microphones amongst you guys, you can use them and keep them. And then when you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll help to make sure we don't get feedback through the speakers. And then for those of you guys online, you can put your thoughts into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. And then if you're in Zoom, you can also raise your hand electronically, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like. like. So when I was doing research for this chapter, I started looking across multiple different sources, and I was curious about, what can we do as an individual human being to affect the health of the planet? Because when we think about the health of the planet, that's a monumental thing. This planet is huge, right? And I was like, what can we really do? Because there's a lot of big organizations, governments, and companies that are really responsible for the way that certain things are happening in the world. And I was just thinking, what can I do as an individual to really be able to help what is experienced through the interaction with the planet? And through all these different resources, I found two things that are common amongst all these different sources. And it's pretty uncommon to see people agree with each other, particularly in a professional environment. So when I started seeing these same two things across multiple sources, I was like, wow, there's really something to this. So I started digging into it, and I'll share those two things with you. And then I'll invite you guys to share things that you guys have learned, and then we can all walk away with different ideas. So the two things that I saw is that scientists and researchers were sharing that if we just move to a plant-based food supply, that this would actually help the health of the planet. And whether you choose to do that or not is a choice for you to make. I'm not here to convince you to do anything. I'm certainly not here to force you to do anything. I can't do that. And even if I could, I wouldn't. So I'm not here to convince you to switch to a plant-based food supply. But if you're currently eating meat, this might be something you choose to look at, because there's certain drugs and hormones and toxins that you ingest by part of eating animal flesh, and it also affects the health of the planet, because 1 acre of land can produce, say, 100 kilos of meat, for example, but that same acre of land can produce like 20,000 or 50,000 kilos of vegetables. And there's some people in the world that don't have food. They're having famine, right? They're not able to access food. So by us switching to a plant-based food supply, not only does it help the health of the planet, that there's not so many drugs and hormones and toxins that are being put into the world, but also it can help people that are hungry and starving and that need food. So this is one particular way that scientists recommend that we as an individual can make decisions that are going to affect the health of the planet. And one of the things that might be interesting to you is that when we were first coming into this world as human beings, whether it was 200,000 years ago or 2 million years ago, scientists are, debating when that actually occurred. But nonetheless, they do agree that when we came into the world, we were actually plant-based eaters. We didn't eat meat when we first came into the world. And you can know this to be true because you're not interested in believing what other people say by looking at your teeth. Your teeth are actually very similar to a horse's teeth or a cow's teeth, which eat grass and eat vegetables, right? So an animal like a lion or a tiger that eats meat, they have much different teeth than we have. So when we first came into this world, we ate plants, but we ran out of plants because our population became so large. So we started eating meat out of necessity. We saw animals killing other animals and eating those animals. So we became scavengers, where we would get together as a group and we would chase those animals away and we would take over their kill. But then that wasn't enough meat for us. So we started to do organized hunting. We started learning how to organize and go out and kill animals for ourselves. That wasn't enough meat for us. So then that's when we came up with manufactured farming. And that's where we are today. And as part of that profit the farmers are looking to make, they inject the animals with drugs and hormones and things like this to be able to grow that animal very fast so that they can actually make a profit from that. So when you're ingesting animal flesh, you're actually eating those things too. And this causes sickness and illness in the body. And this is something that you can look at and see for yourself, that there's this cause and effect, or this action and result. There's a sequence of events that is occurring here that you might decide that you might be interested at some point in the future to consider moving to a plant-based food supply. But whether you choose to do that or not, it's a choice for you to make. It's not up to me. It's your life. You're adults. You can make choices for yourself. But this is one of the pieces of information that you'll see that it not only helps the planet, it not only helps people to get access to food, but it also will help you to ensure that your body's not experiencing certain sicknesses and illnesses as a result of ingesting drugs, hormones, and toxins. And then the second thing that I saw that the scientists were agreeing to is that we tend to waste a lot of food in the world. And that waste of food produces a lot of pollution, because in order to produce any particular type of food, for example, a farmer needs to go to a store, buy a seed, come home, plant that seed, use water to be able to nourish that seed, harvest that plant, bring it to the market, package it. Then we need to drive to the market. We need to purchase that food item, bring it home, prepare it, cook it ourselves, and so forth and so on. There's a whole chain of events here that happens in order to bring any particular food into this body. There's a whole sequence of events that needs to occur that we've systematized at this point. And there's certain pollution that occurs through that. And the research shows that a country like the USA actually wastes 40% of their food. So that means that 40% of the resources that are going into creating food in this food supply and this chain of events is being wasted. So what scientists say that is, if we just ate all of our food and try to get to the point where we're reducing and minimizing our food waste, because obviously there's going to be some waste. You can't eat every last certain type of food that is produced, but if we can just minimize that, that would actually improve the health of the planet. And they were equating this to like so many millions of cars being taken off the road and not polluting the air by just choosing to eat all of our food. So these are the two things that I actually saw. And what I'm going to do is just stop here and just open up to a discussion with you guys and the people online. Normally I have a certain topic using the words of the Buddha and helping you guys to understand how to train your mind and all these other things. But here towards the end of the book, it's coming towards an end. There's about 24, 25 chapters in the book. Here, I just kind of help people to understand that moving to this higher consciousness and making wise decisions, because that's what we teach all the way through the teachings of the Buddha, it also involves making decisions about how we interact with the planet. And each of us as adults, we can choose to do that and figure out ways that we can maybe improve how we interact with the planet. Because I know when I was growing up as a child, I was taught as we were driving down the road, if there's trash in the car, you just chuck it out the window. And that's what we used to do. And then over time, we learn and we evolve and we grow as human beings, and we realize that's unwise. And we stop doing that. We start making sure we find a place for our trash. And growing up as a child also, when I first got my first car, I was taught to change the oil and dump the oil in the woods or dump it in the sewer. And that's what I used to do when I first started to change the oil in my car. But then as we get older, we realize that that's unwise, and we start changing our decisions. So we all are able to change our decisions in the way we interact with the planet and with each other. And that's what the teachings of the Buddha are really truly about, is implementing change in our own life. It's not about rules and commandments. It's not about believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. It's about learning, growing, and developing in this life, getting to the point where you're practicing discernment or wise decision making, because there's a cause and effect relationship to every decision we make. It's going to produce a certain result. And we need to be aware of moving to this higher consciousness that we make wise decisions about how we interact with the planet. So this is everything that I'm going to share with you guys. Unless you guys have things that you would like to talk about, those of you guys online as well, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on what types of things you guys are doing in order to interact with the planet in wise ways. And like I mentioned, we can all walk away with some new ideas of things that we might choose to implement in our life. So would anybody like to share their ideas here at the temple, or anybody online? Yes, sir. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind grabbing a mic. It looks like we have someone online as well. So we'll have you go first.
So this is something which NGO in Croatia does, which I was volunteering at a couple of times. They organize as an activity on the weekend, for example, in the park, a group of people gather together and they collect either cigarette butts or trash they find in a nature space. And it's not necessarily just like volunteering, it's also like a hangout activity, it's a picnic also. So it's basically incorporating a fun social community event, but also doing something proactive, like nice for the planet. It doesn't have to be necessarily ecological. It can also be painting a wall or renovating a building which needs renovating. So it kind of making it as a community weekly or monthly event where it's mostly about hanging out, but while you hang out, you do something constructive, not necessarily drinking in a bar. So that's something which I find really helpful.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's a great idea, combining fun and social event with cleaning up various parts of the city. That's perfect. Yeah, excellent idea. Looks like we have somebody here online, Janae. If you'd like to go ahead by unmuting your microphone, you're welcome to.
So for me, something that I did when I was like a teenager was I would garden a lot. Like I spent a lot of time outside gardening. And I remember I used to need to buy all of the soil from the store in order to plant the things in. And then I learned about composting, which is where you take, your old the stuff that you don't use anymore, and then you put into like a pile. And I remember like there were people in my family who used to be farmers and gardeners for their livelihood, and they'd be like, "You started a compost pile? Like what?" I've never seen anyone so young do that before because it's usually something that people don't do. Most people just go and buy the soil. But something that I still do to this day is if I have scraps in my kitchen, I try not to put it into the trash and I try to put it into either the compost pile directly. I have like an actual pile, but then I also have like a bucket that you can put it in because the same process can pretty much happen in the bucket itself. But something that I do like in my actual kitchen is I have this plastic bag and then I take the food scraps and I put them in and then I put them in the freezer because if I freeze them, then they won't like decay right away. And then you can just throw it in the compost pile. And for me, that's like a part of not wasting food, as in it's not going to be eaten. I'm not going to eat all of this old lettuce that I forgot about in my fridge, but I can also still put it back into nature in that way.
Perfect. Sounds like a great idea, Janae. All right, let's see. Do we have anybody else? Okay, looks like maybe Joe or Adela. Go ahead, guys.
Hi, David. Yes, this is Adela. So I recently read an article about how developed countries send a bunch of e-waste. So from our, appliances and electronic devices, some of it is recycled and a lot of it is just sent to developing countries and to landfills. And then there are workers in developing countries who are maybe at the poverty line and are trying to make money. And so they would go through these landfills and pick through these, electronics, which have a lot of chemicals. So obviously, like it affects their health as well. So that really kind of like opened my eyes to the fact that how much we're using electronics and how often, like, for example, I have a phone, like how often am I getting a new phone or buying like a new iPad because there's a version that comes out, every year or every 2 years. So I think that's something that we could do is probably just be conscious of our usage of electronics if we're getting new devices and how often we're doing that, and maybe just use it until it's at the very end of its life cycle, something like a cell phone, rather than getting a new one every couple of years.
Sounds like a great idea. Yeah. All right, let me see what else we have here. All right, I don't see anyone else. Sometimes people are very talkative with this topic, sometimes not. So I'll just give a second to see if anyone else is going to be interested to share. Ted and Kristen, couldn't see. Go ahead, guys.
David, Ted, and Kristen. I think we just have some of the basics in regards to trying to ride our bike a little bit more often, or cycling our clothes, or buying the right amount of food as opposed to overkill. Recycling when we can. I mean, it's just some of the basics, but and you kind of glossed over them pretty quickly. But it's something we try to do. Yeah, Kristen.
Yeah, also, well, I'm a vegetarian, so I stopped eating meat several years ago, and trying to work on getting Ted to do that at some point. But also we don't tend to we make sure not to kill any living beings in the house or outside. So if there is a living being that's crawling around, either we'll capture it and set it free, or we'll just allow it to sort of live and die on its own in the house, so we're not killing. So that's something that we also do. And I don't know if this would apply, but when I teach yoga, I try to always incorporate breathing mindful meditation before and after class. So maybe that's kind of helpful to the world, sort of sharing that. I think is, helping others, trying to be kind and good in the world.
Maybe in an indirect way, allowing people to maybe get in a better headspace to where being more mindful would be more open to them. I don't know, some indirect ways, like not killing the bugs, may allow them to do their thing out in nature and be helpful. One thing that comes to mind though, and it's almost a self-defeating thought, is like, what is this really going to matter, the little bit that I do, as opposed to governments and good old United States of America backing out of the accord to help with climate change. What little bit am I really doing to things? But I guess if everyone had that attitude, we wouldn't get very far, I interrupted my wife.
Thank you.
That's it.
All right, guys. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's helpful that we each individually think of things that we can do. And, of course, there's other people that have much more influence to affect much larger pollution areas and much larger populations, but we can each still do our part to make sure that we're polluting as least amount as possible. That's definitely helpful. So it's good that you see that, Ted. Okay, let me just see one more time on Facebook and YouTube. I don't see anything there. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is just thank all of you guys for joining. Thank you for joining for meditation. Thank you for joining for this little talk. If you'd like to learn more, I usually go through and teach in much more detail, where this particular topic, the chapter 21, I've been teaching all the way through this program for about 6 months, 6.5 months. We just kind of have a little time to chat and discuss with students. So if you'd like to join on Wednesdays or Saturdays or Sundays, you'll see that I actually teach the topics from the book, where this topic, I think that it's just best if we share ideas, that I'm not the only one that has ideas about this topic. There's other people who have ideas too. So that's why I turn it into more of a discussion. But these other topics, you'll see that as we go through the rest of this program, we're going to finish out the book and then we're going to restart from the very beginning, where you can really lay a foundation in the path to enlightenment. This Wednesday, I'm going to be teaching here at 9 a.m. where I'm going to be doing loving kindness meditation with students. This is going to help to transform the mind away from anger, hatred, and ill will. This is all the lesser versions too, like frustration, irritation, annoyance. And I do that at 9 a.m. here, and I do it from 9 p.m. at home. And I live stream all of these classes, where I teach here at home. And I teach courses and retreats throughout the month and throughout the year as well. And you can attend here or you can attend online as well. So if you'd like to get help to be able to train your mind to get to this enlightened mental state, there's help for you. And everything's available at no cost, whether it's books or audiobooks, videos, podcasts, classes, courses, retreats, even personal guidance. If you'd like that, I'll help you to be able to understand how to progress forward towards this enlightened mental state. So whatever you guys choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps we'll see you next time. Sawadee ka.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.